All right, all right, all right. Welcome to this episode of Warrior Week Parables from the Pit. Very, very special guest this week, Coach Maximilian. Coach Maximilian, graduate of Warrior X, and also the man that has changed the direction of my life. He's here, and we're about to get into it. Max, welcome to the studio, bro.
Thank you, sir.
Apparently, you were late, Max. Is that true?
Yeah, Island Sam. Real late, Island Sam.
All right.
Some people run on different fucking clocks.
Things are getting very spicy. Stay tuned for this amazing fucking episode. All right, Coach Maximilian. So let me tell you, let me give the introduction here. Coach Maximilian, I met Coach Max in 2013 in CrossFit Costa Mesa. We've just moved from Houston down here in Orange County. I had no friends, nobody, and I needed to start working out. And I started Googling some stuff, and the first thing I found was 24-hour fitness. I got into 24-hour fitness. I was into maybe a couple of weeks into it. I was on Facebook one day. I see this dude lifting barbells and, dropping it down. So I message him. I'm saying, hey, what is it that you do? Because what is that? And he's like, it's this thing called CrossFit. I'm like, oh, okay. So started Googling, and there's a couple of places. There was a CrossFit, I don't know, Infinity or whatever it was, and then it was CrossFit Costa Mesa. I went to the first one. I didn't feel a vibe of. I didn't feel anything. I felt that it was like just closed-minded box, and just people knew each other, and no one. I didn't feel welcome. Okay, so and then so I continued my search the same day. It was a Monday. And I reached out to Lindsay at that time. She called me back right away. She was like right on. And she said, hey, we have a class today. It's onboarding class. I'm like, onboarding? Okay. She goes, yeah, we got to test you out for the first 2 weeks. And I come to CrossFit Costa Mesa. I walk in, and I see this bearded guy just like fucking going at it with a bunch of other guys. And something told me that this is a place I need to be.
It's crazy that the process is very similar yet very different from that, and that's like what, 5 years ago?
5 years, man.
Fuck, that's crazy.
5 years, yeah. And I see you just going at it. I meet with Lindsay, and we get into it. I come at the onboarding that night. I think you guys were doing it at night between 6 to 8 or whatever that was. And it was Lindsay, and it was a taller guy, Aaron. It was Aaron that was doing it. So. I kept wanting to meet you. I was like, oh, where's this guy coming? And then I think you came in at one of the classes. It was towards the end, and then we actually did a workout when you came in. And from that time, it was like, hey, I was exposed to this. I was never an athlete. Like, my background, I played hockey a bit in Canada, but like I never athletically pursued anything. So this was my first time being introduced to something that you had a possibility at winning at. It was like playing soccer, because I played soccer, and this was like playing. I sucked at it for a long time, and but I was able to play every day, and I became the nooner. So we had actually a small community, and up to now there's like 7 or 8 of us. They're still connected just because of that 1 hour experience, man.
I never actually ever coached noon classes.
I know.
I make it point of my contract to not coach any noon classes. So
it was Aaron and
I coach like 70% of my gym's classes. And
yeah,
so
you did Saturdays.
Yeah, if you want to dodge me, you come to noon. That's a good time to come and get a little bit of a mellow vibe from it all. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty much the same process, man. Yeah. People still come in. They still got to kind of, we don't do like the fundamental classes anymore. We put you into an environment where you're kind of with the main group right away, but you're not isolated. We just slow down that warm up naturally. Mm-hmm. So it's actually pretty cool how we've developed as a gym and a community. And I mean, I have a lot of people like yourself that have been around me for somewhere around 5 to 10 years. So when you come in there, you're like, oh man, these people are really like athletic or developed or competitive. They use these words, and the reality of it is no, they're just fucking dedicated, and they've just been there for long enough to where you're gonna have highs and lows, but you put your mind to it. The gym is the beauty of it. It just gives you what you put into it. Yeah. So you're gonna develop skills. You're gonna be able to move a certain way the longer you put into it. And it's weird how some people that's hard for them to find.
Awesome. And we're gonna talk about what got you there, right? So this is Warrior Week. You've been a graduate of Warrior X. You know how the game goes. And so we're gonna get deep, man, and we're gonna go back in the days, and we're gonna talk about Max. This podcast is not about just another dude on the fucking podcast or us trying to get popularity on this. Quite frankly, popularity is the last thing that we look for. This is the purpose of this fucking podcast is tell the story of Max. I know the story of Max, and I know the story of Max is a story that could impact thousands. And there is a viewer, at least one guy, one dude that is listening right now, and that's going to resonate with your fucking story, and he's going to be in the same fucking place. Something brought Max where Max is today as a leader, but that wasn't always the case. And tragedy and so many fucking things were put in front of you, so many fucking obstacles in front of Max. And we'll get to talk about that, right? We get to talk about who Max is and why Max is doing what he's doing today, because that's the essence of the show. That's what we talk about.
That's awesome.
And it's gonna get pretty alpha on the show. It may wipe away the feminine audience, but sometimes that's what it is. You just gotta take a fucking stand. Because last time I checked, you don't have a vagina, I don't have a vagina, and so we're gonna talk about what we know.
Yes.
Okay. So Max, just talk to us, man. Like, what brought Max where you are today?
There I was. No. And there I was. No, I think back to why I made the choices that I do to train and coach the general population and try to help develop non-athletic or athletic people stay athletic. All stems from my background as kind of a kid that always worked hard, wasn't the most athletic, and then went to school, played soccer. His dad was a pro soccer player, so he wanted to be a soccer player as well. Really wasn't that good at it. Then went to college, walked on, got Title IX. Funny, with today's climate, now everybody's concerned about it, but I got Title IX, so that means that the women's program took some of our money, and so my team, soccer team, that was actually a scholarship team, went from being part of a D3 program to being a club sport, and so I didn't mess around with trying to play college soccer for 3 years, walk on, sit my ass there on that bench my freshman year, just to suddenly be playing club. And so I thought I would go and try to play pro soccer after that, and it didn't work out right. And so I kept wandering the world. And at the same time, in 1996, the fall, my first two college friends that I met, we rolled down a hill, 278 yards, and two of us lived, two of us died. 50-50 where we were sitting, 50-50 on the seatbelt. Like, one of us was wearing a seatbelt, one of us wasn't. The kid that wasn't wearing a seatbelt, actually, that lived, he had the best ride because he just held on to the back. Another kid got shot out, and it was something that impacted me. And at that moment, I didn't have a bad upbringing. I had really good parents, all that good stuff. And at that moment, I decided to play like the fuck you game, like, God, you saved me, but why? And it became my journey to kind of start looking for more stuff and kind of put myself in harm's way. And then I started getting into a point where, imagine that I was 18 years old and I got cut a check for $13,000 from rolling down that hill, and it was blood money to me. And I just put that money into drugs, and really what it was marijuana. And it's crazy that prohibition now, that it's completely legal. But I started selling marijuana, and it got into a point where I was really traveling around the U.S., doing it at a really high level. To the point where I was hanging out with professional snowboarders, getting like out of balance avalanche specialty certs, shit like that. And it was just a journey to where I realized that I didn't want to do that anymore. And so I came home to my mom, because I'm a mama's boy. And I started thinking I was going to be a mountaineer and all that good stuff. And again, I was a mama's boy. And so it just kept drawing me back. And I didn't know any other way to make a living but to take money. And so then I just started taking money from drug dealers. If you got robbed, I played Robin Hood for a while, and that was probably the stupidest shit I ever done. And then I took a blame for a couple friends of mine. We were in a car with some marijuana, and they would have done some really hard time, and I had a completely clean record, and it was 3 pounds of marijuana, and at that point that would have given me a felony. And thank God one of those idiots had cocaine in there, and that put me on Prop 36, put me on probation. And I'm one of those kids that if you get a chance to clean up your record, I don't have to second guess. It's super easy. I'll play your game. So I plugged and played, had no problems, was on informal probation, and then I was at a bar and there was a bar fight, and my friend got in the middle of it and started getting beat, and so I beat the shit out of a crowd. Cops came. I was doing the good thing. I separated the crowd, and then they put me into a cell, and they told me that if this kid didn't wake up from getting hit by me, I was going to face involuntary manslaughter. And since that day, I never touched another man. And the first time I touched somebody was at Warrior.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, yeah. We're going to talk about that. Fuck yeah, man.
So that was probably like 5-10 years before that. Yeah, and I caught that kid. I hit him. I caught him. I laid him down. And then I hit some other kid, and then he just hit the concrete. And I felt bad. But he was a minor drinking. They started this huge fight. And then that put me back on probation.
Yeah.
And so then, I plugged and played again and just said I wanted to clean up my life. Started becoming a bartender, went back to school 3 times, and started just doing personal training and kind of fitness because I knew how to do it. Got into bodybuilding, realized that wasn't actually functional fitness, or I don't really like to use that word, but let's just say it wasn't actually something that I could be fit, and I wanted to find a different way, and that's where kind of the path led me to getting into personal training, coaching, managing major gyms, Globo gyms, box gyms, doing all kinds of shit. I helped develop CrossFit football, took advantage, all kinds of nasty shit along the way. And I could have done a lot of weird stuff, got upset about it, tried to fight the good fight. And all I've always wanted to do was just help people out. And so it didn't really matter to me the dollars and cents or the fame and fortune or the web celebrity online or anything like that. It was really about the 250, 300 people or the 500 people online that are willing to just kind of interact with me daily.
Yeah.
And that's really what drove me.
So, I know this, and those that know you know this. It's funny. Sometimes I post pictures of us on Instagram after a workout or some shit like that. And they're like, dudes coming out of nowhere. I don't even fucking know. It's like, yeah, man, Coach Max, respect. It's like, who the fuck is this guy? And it's like some old school friend of yours just popping out. But that has happened over and over and over. And there is, like, people follow you not because the way you fucking talk. People follow Max because the way you walk. The end. I've witnessed it personally. My son has witnessed it. We talk about you. I remember you training for a weightlifting competition in 2016. Am I right?
2014. Yeah.
That was 14? Okay, 2014. You were training, and you trained in front of all of us for like 6 months. You trained in front of us, and we would come and watch you, and some people would come and some people won't. But like, we saw the progress, you dropping the weight, just getting back to your element, which is weightlifting, and we're going to talk about that. We witnessed that. I witnessed multiple times you taking the teams to the games. I witnessed you
regionals.
Fucking
regionals.
Yeah, really.
Oh
shit.
We had a bubble.
The games.
We had a bubbles teams.
Yeah.
Bubble teams athletes.
Almost to the game.
Almost. We had a lot of. Yeah, we missed it by 1 point one year, and then we missed it by like 7 points. But we were top. But we were always developed in house, never recruited. That's always a good story because it's about like being able to sacrifice as a whole is what kept that team from actually succeeding at what they wanted.
And to witness it from the outside, that one year they came so close and they didn't make it. And the next year they came back, they came so close, better than last year. But that was the whole definition of, doesn't matter how many times you get punched down and you come back. Like the team and your team that you brought to the regionals, trying to go to the games. And also individual athletes, right? Individual athletes. Lucero is one that you've trained and you continue to train. So, like, so many opportunities to witness Max walk, right? And so people walk. And you come in on a Saturday, you start putting something together, some kind of fucking workout. People know that it's not just for that Saturday. People know that this has been thought through before, and this is like, okay, listen, this is the season that we're walking into. This season, this is what we're working on, because next season, I know Christmas is coming. I know, this is coming.
We want to look good naked in August.
This shit is engineered.
Yeah.
Like, the work is engineered, and people see that, right? And the more you stay around Max, the more you see that. The point of the conversation is the following, is there was a pivoting point in your life. pivoting point was when you witness, the death of your friends and that accident. That changed the direction for you.
Yeah, changed it quite a bit. I mean, and then if you really think about it, that the story, like the onions of the story, like when you just mentioned the weightlifting, I skipped fucking a huge part of that. Right?
Fuck yeah.
So like, I mean, basically, I go through this whole situation to where I want to get functionally fit, and then I find Olympic weightlifting, and I have soccer players that I want to actually teach how to do Olympic weightlifting, and I sucked at it, and so I found a coach, Skip Benzing, and he actually helped me out, and I was pretty good at it, and I tried a local meet and qualified for nationals in the snatch, clean and jerk for Olympic weightlifting, and that was 2004, and I said, hey, you know what, I'm going to dedicate 4 years to see if I can make an Olympic team. And then I made it like top 7 in the nation in that weight class. I think it was like 18th overall. And then I eventually climbed my way up to like a top 10 overall ranking. And then I retired. And then that's where you're saying that I had 2 months.
Became as an adult, right?
Yeah, I became an adult. It was like 2012. I retired because of the Olympics. That was the last cycle. 2010, 2000, or what was it? 2000 from 2004, 2008, 2008, 2012. Those were the 2 cycles. And then I just said, fuck it, I'm out. And then in 2013 or something like that, I had a buddy of mine die in an airplane accident. And then I had another buddy that got paralyzed at a competition, Kevin Ogar. And from there, that's when you saw me compete for Worlds. I came out of retirement and did Masters. We were talking about coming out of retirement again. But the reality of it, then, fuck, man, I'm just like living in Never Neverland and keep going out.
Keep going out.
Compete. But I have a kid right now that I really enjoy coaching that works for me, Steven. And Esmerio, he's like I call him my muse.
Yeah.
And he's never really seen that. He's never seen me compete. He's never seen that drive. And a part of that kind of I feel bad that he's not going to ever witness that part of Max. He'll see Coach Max, and I think I'm more amiable in that sense. I'm sweeter to people than because I couldn't hear other people at the time. Like people would come in and be like, oh, they'd give me the country song, like, oh God, it's hard with work, or oh man, and the kids are keeping me up at night, or like, fuck man, I work full time too.
Yeah.
Oh man. And so it didn't make sense to me when people would cry about that kind of stuff.
I want to come back to that piece, man. Okay. There was a moment that pivoted your life and your direction. You started viewing life as something else. Like you said, you got some money in your hand, like the clear, like you created your own fucking guidance at that point, right? You went after power, and you find power in the association that you had access to at that time, which was drugs and that world, and that fueled you for a certain time. And you walked into a situation where now you had to deal with the law, and you were pretty restricted. So you're like, okay, I'm forced to come out of that association, and then you find weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting. I want to come back to that word dedication, so that I spent enough time with you, but I want the audience to understand what that is. Not that I know, but what I've heard from you is, and what I feel and I understand is the following. It's 4 years of your fucking life dedicated to 2 fucking movement only, day and night. 2 movement, clean and snatch, bro.
10,000 hours. 10,000
mastery.
So if you really look into that and you look in the mastery of 10,000 hours of something, and I know there's like the 4-hour bullshit you can try to figure out or whatever, the reality of it is that you have to actually put time into something for 10,000 hours. And if you think of Olympic weightlifting, a snatch is 10,000 hours, the clean and jerk is 10,000 hours. You're talking 20,000 hours, and I was already 22. And so I started doing the math backwards, and I said, okay, well, if I train 2 or 3 times a day and I manipulate the hours and the sessions, well, how many years and how long do I have to actually train at this? And we were talking 5 or 7 years before I was actually going to come close to mastering it.
And the idea is you didn't go after any other shiny object. Like, let's be real. There was many other shiny objects because the fitness industry was evolving. That industry itself was evolving. Everything else was evolving, right? And Olympic weightlifting wasn't the topic of the day. Let's football was. Yeah. Everything else was. And you had the physique, and you could get involved in so many other shining objects happening, but you kept the focus on 2 fucking movements. That's simple. You studied that scientifically and physically. You've applied what you studied scientifically on the fucking platform, and with sweat and tears, you got to the position that you got. I mean, there's a bunch of YouTube videos on you. If you know YouTube Maximilian and Marmon, and then you see all the fucking you'll see all the fucking strength of fucking power.
The ballyhoo, yeah, all the superhuman pet tricks I can do.
So life goes on. Then comes along this opportunity to coach others, personal training, and I remember you talking about that at one point. You were part of a team, Equinox. I think it was Equinox, and then bigger gyms, and you were managing. And what brought you to CrossFit in Costa Mesa?
CrossFit actually reached out to us in like 2004, 2003, I think, maybe even earlier. And I met it through this guy named Greg Everett. Sorry, Josh Everett. And then I met Greg Everett and Coach Bergner and all them after the fact. But it was all through Josh Everett. He was a strength coach at UC Riverside, and we were strength coaches. I was an unpaid assistant at Cal State Fullerton, or like I was just lifting there kind of deal and helping out. And then next thing you know, they're like, hey, have you heard of this thing called CrossFit? Would you like to go check it out? And then just invited us up to Santa Cruz, and we went up there, lifted and trained. And they realized, like, oh, hey, man, this guy has a lot of capability to understand living outside the box and understanding, like, high-intensity training. We call it HIIT training, right? And I would say that CrossFit was really good about putting some type of tangible measurement to what the fuck you're doing in the gym. You know, and that was something where, as a bodybuilder, I never got. Moving a pin up and down, I never got that. Understanding multiple reps, the AND1 program, I did 10 reps at 50 pounds, and next week I did 12 reps. That was cool for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really liked it. But I started really liking the idea of being able to grab a 135-pound bar, one arm snatching it, and doing a Turkish get-up. And so there was other ways to develop myself, and so that's how come I found CrossFit, because I found Russian kettlebells, I found Olympic weightlifting, and then I found CrossFit, and then so that was kind of like the order of how I was finding shit. And then at the same time, I was getting kicked out of gyms because they were like, "What the fuck you doing? Why are you teaching this fat ass how to Olympic lift when he wants to lose weight?" And I would tell him like, "Hey man, he follows the diet. His gift is do Olympic weightlifting. He's doing cardio. He's still losing weight. What's the deal? I'm making him happy, you know?" It's like, and it was a really different to the norm. And now if you see like the actual fitness industry, it does cater to everybody, because that's what the online world is like catering to, right?
Yeah.
It's like the ability to kind of get what you need to out of your fitness, but you still got to be fucking dedicated.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing that comes out of it. You got to be able to plug and play day in, day out, understanding rest, understanding how to recover, understanding how to actually do this thing. And, you know, that's hard for people.
So life goes on, and then you meet your wife, Coach G, at CrossFit, right? At Costa.
No, actually, she was at Equinox. She was a front desk manager, and I was like, "Oh man, that girl's a bitch. I don't know, she's crazy." And then I fell in love with her.
That's great.
That's legitimate, you know. And then she runs my gym, and she's my boss.
Shit.
Yeah, she's a phenomenal operations manager, and that's what I fell in love with.
Dude, I remember.
She's also my coach.
Fuck, I remember we were training. She did some of the noon classes. And we were training, and one day she came in. I don't know if she was pissed off, but like she was on fucking point. Until this day, I remember that. It's like tattooed in my fucking head. I remember that, and I keep talking about it. And she sat down, and it's like, you know, we had all this fucking emotional moment because some people fucking puking on the floor. And then she sat everybody down, and the class was done. We could have all left. And she's like, you know, she gave some fucking speech. I forgot. But at the end, she said, and it hit really fucking hard. She says, train for something. like train for, don't fucking just just train for something. And you know, our guys coming into Warrior Week, you came into Warrior Week, and we're going to talk about that. And when guys start, you know, talking about, you know, their body, right? And what they do to take care of their body. And one of the questions that comes up all the time is like, okay, so you go to the gym 3 times a week, you have a personal trainer, whatever. Why? And they're not able to answer that, right? And behind this, it's the question of Coach G that comes up, which is, motherfucker, are you training for something, right? Because if you tell me that you're training for something, then I'm clear. Yeah. But if you tell me that you're quote unquote following the status quo, I'm doing this to be healthy. doesn't have any focus.
No.
The healthy is the big fucking. It's the big hope. It's the illusion that this fucking $50 billion industry has created. So, isn't that simple, bro?
It'd be almost better to just say, "Oh yeah, I'm having fun," you know, or I want
at least,
or I want to learn. You know what I mean? Like that's why it's like training for something. It doesn't necessarily have to be fitness or health. It could be just to understand, hey, how my body works.
That's right.
You know, things of that nature. Actually taking ownership of it. Sometimes that's hard for people too, though. I mean, people just want to like turn off. And
yeah,
it's.
I mean, if you're someone that needs to lose weight, that's the focus. Is very clear.
Yes.
But if you're someone that kind of doesn't need to lose weight, and you're not an athlete, what the fuck are you training for?
I would say that was almost my aha moment at Warrior.
Oh yeah.
Was that like what the fuck am I doing here? Like everything's pretty good in my life. I don't understand. What do I need to fix? No way. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh shit, okay, this is good. This is good.
Yeah, you came. Let's talk about that. You came to Warrior. Obviously, you and I were working with each other, and there was a period of your time when just Max fell off fell off the wagon. Like you and I talked about wagon, how I fell off the fucking wagon.
I retired, man. I fucking was happy to retire. My wife had a kid, and we went on maternity leave, and she went back to work, and I stayed on maternity leave a little longer.
Yeah.
And I was enjoying my time off, and I justified the bullshit of the rationale of, well, I've technically been training since I was 15 years old. I'm actually 38 now. I mean, I deserve to have some time off. And I gave myself almost a year and a half off of not really training hard, not really following a diet. And I ballooned up, and really the gaining the weight wasn't the issue. The problem more so was actually losing the lean body mass inside that time of not training. And all of a sudden my fucking joints just turned to shit, and everything went. And I always said, like, oh, motion is lotion. I'm like a shark. I've moved so much for so long that I'm never going to be able to stop. And I don't know why I convinced myself for a year and a half. And like, there's only a few parts where I look back at my life, I'm like, oh, I kind of regret that. That's something that I regret, because the reality of it is I could have just kept moving. I own a gym. I'm always around it, but I was justifying myself to take the break. Mentally, it was kind of nice, but now what physically I feel, I would have tried to figure out a different way to mentally take that break.
So, dude, you know, like we painted the image of Max of being the super athlete, and I was the first witness. I said, oh shit, when I walked into CrossFit because I was a sedated motherfucker back in oil and gas. I was just a fucking guy that would travel across the world with his fucking suitcase and a BlackBerry, and I thought there was significance into that, right?
I did that too.
So fucking, you know, just because I'm staying at this hotel and I'm traveling this, I'm fucking someone, and yet I'm leaving my wife and my kids alone. And then I came to fucking Costa Mesa, and there was an alpha there that kind of like, there was a magnetic field that says, come here. I don't know what the fuck it was. That's the way I can describe it in my own word. And then I witnessed what happened to you. There was an assault on your alpha. There was an assault on your certainty as a man for a period of time. And part of it, like, you know, it's no one's fault. You put yourself in a condition in an area. Number one, you stop what you were doing, which is fueling the fucking alpha, which is just your world, man. It's your world, your motherfucking world, which is training, right? And that kind of slowed down. And then the justification and the assumption and your mind started kicking in. Your body started responding and resisting to the mind. And now you're like, oh, fuck, you know, I'm fucked here. And your mind goes, and dude, you've been through, we're going to talk about the fucking surgeries. You've gone through multiple fucking surgeries. Yeah. Multiple. And it wasn't something new, your body breaking down and coming back from it. But as if this cloud of fucking, I don't want to even fucking call it depression, but this cloud of assault, man.
I was pretty depressed. I mean, it was something where my wife never really, I've always been a very happy-go-lucky guy. It's always, when I come into the gym, to me, it's like an act. Like, I'm a hard-ass person, but I love everybody. I call everybody a kid, because they're all my fucking kids there. And it's more, I sleep fine at night. I'll yell at you, but I'll go sleep, and there's no hard feelings there. And my wife saw something where it didn't make sense to her, because she's known me for 12, 13 years, and it didn't make sense that I was feeling that way, or I was kind of in this sad place where she had never seen it. And then I was blessed enough to where she was trying to, like, when I was talking to you guys and things like that, where she was like, dude, just do what you got to do to kind of figure that out. Because this is weird to me, because I've never seen you like this, Max. Like, it's not you.
It was weird to me, too.
It's not you.
You know, from a distance, you know? So Max kind of checked out. And so I kind of went after you. I said, bro, come to this. Bro, come to this. And then you said yes. Because at the beginning, you didn't say yes right away. You were always like, yeah, man, it's cool stuff. And then you give into it. You said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna do this. Yeah. And you've done a bunch of things crazier than this. I remember you telling me about the survival fucking thing that you did where they drop you out of nowhere and you
1,000 burpees. Yeah, 1,000 burpees. Don't sweat. Yeah, build your own igloo.
Fuck.
Don't worry. We'll have that little discussion afterwards.
And so, you know, you come to Warrior X and the first 24 hours is a lot of physical shit. And you're just doing your thing, just like you did back in the days with presidents. Like, all right, you got a system, I'll fucking follow it, man, no problem. So you're just checking in. And we fucked with you. We taped the fucking, remember the fucking, the teddy bear? Mm-hmm. You had a fucking teddy bear because Max has become this teddy bear now.
I carry that
that motherfucking teddy bear around your arm. And that was, you know, day 1 through night. And you just check the box. And there was a moment where everything fucking changed. And it was on top of that mountain. You know, we were doing a hike. And there was a moment where we just all gathered together. And you were in the center. And it was that moment that it was very clear you found the source of what has caused all this shit to slow down. And it was truly, it's just like like Max has never been socially alone, but Max was fucking operating alone that period of time. Yeah. And that fucking hit hard. Yeah. Harder than like, maybe like from what you shared, harder than some of the shit that you've experienced in the past.
It was a really cool feeling to actually like be angry about how out of shape I was and be angry about other people around me that kind of got ready for Warrior and they were able to mentally outdo me in certain things. And it was a situation where it was more on me than anybody else. And I got real angry about it. And then again, I tried to isolate myself and the coaches saw that and then they brought it back. And it was something where it became a question of why I was angry.
Yeah.
And then I immediately said, well, I was angry because I'm not Max anymore.
Yes.
And it was like a moment of like, but who the fuck is Max? What's it matter? You still are. And that's actually what I was told. Like, I still am. I'm still Max. You know, I'm not just weightlifter Max.
Yeah.
I'm not just soccer Max. I'm not just drug dealer Max. I'm not just coach Max. You know, I'm actually fucking Maximilian Yves Mormont.
Yeah.
And that was like a real aha moment. And I mean, you're talking to a kid that has done peyote. You're talking to a kid that has done LSD. You're talking to a kid, and I've never said that anywhere. So you're talking to a kid that has done a lot of crazy shit to actually find spirituality. One of my, you know, minors is actual religious studies.
Yes.
And so for me, that was actually a bigger spiritual moment than some of the other like trips I've been on. You know, that was a big fucking trip. You know, the other one was the light warrior and the dark warrior.
Yes, that experience.
That was a huge one for me. More so how I drew it than anything else.
Yeah. But very nice.
Fuck.
And it all came together, right? The experience of light warrior, dark warrior is something that you experience when you go through Warrior Week and is access to a part of you that has always been there and you find it and it's been dormant and you activate it, right? And then in the mountains, there's this space where it's almost like when the guys have their hand on your heart, it's the experience of hand of God, which is, you know, no one is God and you're God in that moment and you're one with whatever that you're hearing. Mm-hmm. And we call this the experience of hearing the voice. Like, it's not about the fucking coaches. It's not about fucking Warrior or anybody else. It's like, listen, there is a man. And it needs to happen in the fucking mountain. It happened for 500 plus graduates inside of the mountain. We moved it to the beach eventually, and it was with the waves. But it is the same fucking concept. Is in that space that you hear that. And yeah, man, you've been a pretty spiritual guy. You've traveled the fucking world. And even on the back, you got respect for all the religions in the world. Like, you have all the signs tattooed on your back. Max has always been a spiritual guy. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a pivoting point where you started developing spiritually further than you ever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It made me realize that there was another, like, again, a layer of that onion that was inside of me that I hadn't been aware of yet. Like, almost like a wake up.
Yeah.
You know, like, it was legitimately like, hey, you're actually a lot more spiritual than you are. And I actually realized that I can actually talk to people about it as an adult.
Yes.
And I didn't really actually talk about my tattoos or my spirituality prior to that. Whereas now, I mean, I have a rabbi, I have a bunch of like people in my gym. I have preachers. I have, I don't have a priest. I wouldn't mind one, but rabbis are a dime a dozen. So I tell my coaches that they got to be real sweet to him.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like that type of interaction for me is key, and I didn't never really felt like I was comfortable with talking about it until that moment. And then also too, like talking about like why men don't cry and things of that nature. Like that beginning phase of the program was really important for me to kind of like bring myself more out of like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah. And there was another moment where, again, we didn't have a camera crew on that particular one, but I managed to get some pictures and some videos, specifically videos on top where that special moment for you happened. So I'm gonna, we have so many videos, and I'm gonna find that out. And I think you should hold on to that piece because that's something that you can share with your son when the time is right, when it comes in. So he understands. Even this fucking podcast is something eventually here to understand, who Max is, right?
Yeah,
Max is not just, the perfect Max out there. Max is the totality of Max. And here's who Max is. And there is a picture of you on the mountain, which you had, you have your shirt off. I had your shirt off. You were in front of guys, and you were kneeling, and there was a U.S. flag. The guy's in the back, and you had your hands back like this, and there's all the 4 tattoos of the 4 symbols of 4 or 5 major symbols of religion. Dude, that's a picture we need to find because that tells a lot, and that tells a story of you walking.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Max is not loud. Max is not like, hey, look at me. Max just walks, and people follow Max because of the way you fucking walk.
Yeah, even in that group, man, I try to stay away from people, and yet people still gravitate towards me. And it's like whether it's fortunate or unfortunate, it sounds kind of egotistical to say it like that, but like, I mean, I'll try to go places and make it a point. Like, I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to hang out with people. And just sometimes I have to ask myself, what vibe am I giving off? Because people are still talking to me. So I don't know what's happening.
So there's that divine peace in there. So everything came together in one moment, which is we're going towards the, towards the event, end of event. I thought you guys thought so. It got pretty intense at one point. We started breaking some shit. And then there was a circle and a fight kind of picked up, right? And like guys needed to go at each other. And then there was a lot of fucking hesitancy from Max waiting on the side. And the coach.
I wouldn't say hesitancy. I would say that there was
prudency.
There was a lot of grown men that had never been inside of that type of situation, and they were getting loud and like non-focused. And basically, I was understanding that I if I was gonna really create some harm, I was gonna have to do the opposite. And then part of me was like, but I really haven't. I swore to myself I wouldn't touch anybody.
Yeah. So that's what I was. I
made a fucking promise to myself.
So that's
I don't break promises.
That's why in the circle, everybody's going at it, and you're in your head thinking about that.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? At the same time, I don't want to miss any gift here, and then you just had to give yourself permission to experience the experience.
Yeah.
And you understood that the point of this was not to fucking destroy, but the point of this to say, you know what, Maximilian is fucking there, and I'm in control of Maximilian, and he's more than welcome to come out, whatever the fuck he wants to come out. But for the time being, we're just gonna have a beer.
Yeah, he wasn't a bad person too. Like,
no,
that was probably another big takeaway. There was like a few of them, but I would say that the fact that this whole time the guy that was a bad guy running and gunning when he was younger had to be suppressed and was told like, hey man, he's not a good person. And the reality of is letting him out made me a great athlete. Letting him out now after Warrior has made me a very good coach.
Yeah.
Understanding that he is actually a weapon and not a hindrance is key. Whereas every part of my journey to where I was until that point was told, hey, dude, this guy is a mean fucking dude. Put him away.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, even in that bar fight, I stayed there. I could have ran away, but I didn't do anything wrong because I was protecting somebody else. But the fact that I won, I was the animal. And then everything got dismissed. But the reality of that mentally, again, oh, shit, well, then maybe that guy shouldn't be out. I thought I was trying to save somebody, but everybody thinks that guy's crazy, so I'm going to put him in a box.
Yeah.
And then now that I've been able to use him inside of, like, my family, inside of my work, inside of my life, it's different. It's different that I don't have to hide from him, It's
So life goes on. Your wife is pregnant with a second child.
Second child. But I want to talk about how my dark warrior, how I drew him.
Oh yeah, let's go, man. Share that, Max. This is your fucking podcast. Let it out, bro.
No, because I mean, I think about it, and when I say, "Oh, I had a coming moment," I open up the journal and you guys make us draw, and I'm like, I'm not a really good fucking drawer, so I start putting stuff together, and you say, draw these guys, and you say, draw this dark warrior.
Yeah.
And the first thing I drew was a Cyclops. Fucking Cyclops. I bet you have how many people graduate? If you looked at their fucking book, how many of those people actually drew a Cyclops?
One.
Okay. my fucking point exactly, all right? So then I was going to erase it.
Yeah.
I was going to physically erase it. I'm like, oh, no, there's no way that anybody else would ever write a Cyclops. And then I realized that my bad guy only has one eye. Because once he hooks on, that's it. It's laser focus. And that's actually his upside to what he helps Maximilian Mormont do in a good way.
Yes.
And so that's where that Cyclops, and I wanted to erase it, and that was going to go against, it's giving me goosebumps thinking about it. It was going to go against what we were trying to do, right? Actually let him fucking out. And I wanted to hide him again. I was physically going to hide him again with a physical act, and it was actually pretty cool to actually be able to hide something that's inside of me, but actually physically doing it. And it was like
crazy,
another
man.
moment, yeah. And so that's another thing I'll show my son.
Yeah, this is a huge lesson, right? As he grows up, and even I deal with Nikon right now in school, and my conversation with him is simple: is like just do whatever the fuck you want, man. Just be you, but I give him guidance, so he's not in the wild west. I don't when I get the yellow notes because of Nikon, I don't judge him right away. I have a conversation with him and say, hey man, what happened? Like, what's going on? This is the yellow note. I show him the yellow note. So they're saying this. What are you saying? And he tells me something, and I believe him first. And like I meant I much rather him lying to me than they're believing their story.
Fair enough.
And the system has worked for me because Nikon doesn't lie.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have to hide. And he knows there's consequences and shit happens, and it's not severe. But it's like, listen, bro, stop lying. Like, and he doesn't. Sometimes he'll try to hide or change the story, but 99% of the time he's telling the truth because he has no other reason to change the story. I don't put pressure on him.
Well, it's crazy how a kid can, at first doesn't understand what consequences are, and as they start to develop, they start to understand that, and that's an easy, without actually giving them punishment, it's an easy way of giving them, life things. Because I feel like when I was growing up, my mom was really good at catering to me, at understanding, hey, I need to be involved with stuff, I need to do this, I need to do that, but never really, breaking it down to me, Maxie, you can make really stupid decisions, but just know that those are yours forever.
Yeah.
And being able to communicate that, not just say that out loud.
Yeah.
And I think what you're doing right there is almost crucial to that, right? That's where in the future these kids will actually understand what the fuck's going on.
But I wouldn't be doing that 5 years ago if I wouldn't walk into Costa Mesa and met you, and as a result of it, worked at CrossFit, look at Garrett, found Warrior, and changed my fucking life, and be here talking to you. I would have been the guy that would have always believed what fucking everybody else is saying about my family, and always give them the right.
Well, I'll give you a situation right now, right? So I'll use this word, today's climate, right? So today's climate, you have everything about him, her, this kind of thing. I take Milo, my son, to gymnastics and dance, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm the only male dropping off my male son at gymnastics and sitting there with a room full of females and a room full of female people. And at the same time, I'm the only male doing that. So it's confusing to me that if people out there are saying that there's all this going on and all this change, there's not that much fucking change happening. I'm still the only male with my male son in there.
Yes.
So then that's still just chatter. And until you go through something like Warrior, or you go through an actual pivotal moment where you start realizing that all you have is what you have, and your reality is your son, your wife, your nucleus of what you got. I mean, I don't really know anything else, man. I was at a point where I wanted to start working more. Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you know what? People are asking me to work. I'm gonna start cranking out money. I'm gonna print paper. I need this. This is good for my retirement. And then it became a situation where it was like, fuck, man, how long do I have with my kids before I'm just picking them up and dropping them off from school.
Mm.
Right? I only have the first 5 years of
Yes.
their lives.
Yes.
And so I was like, well, why don't I just take a pay cut and not really worry about it? I mean, I got 20 more years of work after that.
Yeah.
And I'll just make sure that every moment of every day, I'm with Milo until he has to go to school.
Yeah.
I don't need to hire care. I don't need
The
to
foundation.
Yeah, why not? I mean,
Fucking foundation.
What else do I got to do? They say you need to spend more money on your children the first 5 years than you do later.
Yeah.
So why would I work during this time? If I'm going to work, I can work at any time in my life. I can work at any time. But the only 5 years that I have for my child is the first 5 years.
Well, think about what I'm going to call them day, because there's a fucking villain here, right? Mm-hmm. They have built a fucking system, a systematic system of sedation of fucking men, particularly because that's what we know. And that is, you're supposed to do this and you're supposed to do that while you're not leading your kids. Like, what I mean is that look at how many people work so hard to put college tuition aside, right? And then kids go to college, and then they graduate, and then they owe money, and then they have no job, and then they end up smoking weed, and then they don't do anything, and then they walk in aisle 13 at Home Depot for fucking 3 years while they're discovering themselves, and then they come back, they lost all their fucking education knowledge and all that investment, and they end up doing something from scratch, and suddenly they're selling a car, they become a car sale manager, they're successful, and it had nothing to do with you putting money aside for them going to school. Sure. Right? And yet you spend all your time for that because somebody told you to do this, versus just slowing this thing back, man, and saying, okay, where is the investment needed now? That's the simple question you ask yourself.
Yeah. Period.
That's it.
Period. Emotional, physical, compensation. What is it? What is it? And what can we do right here?
There's a price to pay and there's a cost. The price that I'm paying is that, okay, I mean, I'm not producing more money. And the cost is, well, I'm not fucking losing money I'm not losing time with my son. Because there's a cost for that. If you do, then there's a cost of regret. So many men come to Warrior and they don't even know their fucking dad because dad wasn't there the early years.
Yeah.
And he came to the soccer game and the baseball game. So what? No one remembers that shit. No one gives a fuck. Because most guys right now are on their fucking phone or they're looking at another chick at the baseball game. They're not even looking at their fucking kids. You don't believe me? You walk around and you can see their eyes wandering all over the fucking place. They're not watching the kid. The kid is in the minivan and they're taking him home and they're fucking browsing and answering emails. And yet they have a story that they spent 2.5 hours with their son because they took him to the baseball game. Motherfucker, you even spent 10 minutes with the guy.
Yeah, that's the same shit with like how people talk about screen time. I get that a lot with the kids, right? You hear, let's say poor people, let's say they.
Yeah, the villains.
Them again, the villains out there, right? They say that, hey, you can't have your kid have screen time. You can't have them have screen time. But what's to say, like, when you're using that screen time for proper use, right? Like, oh, hey, my child can learn on the screen. I mean, if he goes to any technical, like, anything in life from now on is some form of a screen.
Correct.
But understanding, too, like my child, for example, I have to actually sit him down and force him to do screen time because he has so much other shit to do.
Yes.
And so I have to actually teach him, hey, this is important for you at this moment. So it's confusing. And if a parent saw me telling my child, hey, you have to do 2 hours of screen time, they would think I was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Right? But I do know that I also give my child 4 hours of playtime.
Yes.
Outside, 2 hours and 1 hour in a gym and like
discovery.
All kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, totally. In the beach, at the water, all kinds of stuff. And then people don't want to put that time aside for their kids.
They don't.
They want to be concerned about the 2 hours of screen time, but they don't want to be concerned about going out to the mountains or doing things of that nature.
They're following a script, man. And they're not stopping out and saying, who the fuck wrote this script?
Yeah, or what is the script for? Like, what's the end game on the script?
I'm the dad, right?
Like,
I'm supposed to lead here.
Yes.
Do I have the choice to execute and adopt the script? I say, or to flip it. Flip the fucking script. You're the dad. You're the guide. There's nobody else. But we tend to fucking delegate. We tend to delegate leadership for our kids, our boys. Look, man, there's nothing wrong with finding coaches and experts and aligning them and making them learn skills. Skills development is fucking beautiful. But the primary skill, which is like the leadership, the power that you project, doesn't matter if they're 4 or 40.
Yeah.
They're attracted to dad because dad projects certain amount of power. But when that dims away, man, then they start getting attract somebody else.
There, or if dad's not there,
dad's not there.
That's great. That's great. I was with an individual that this guy probably travels the world.
Yes.
Really, really rich individual. One of the wealthiest rich man in the world, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And this man still made it a point to come home, whether he was in Europe or anyways, he would fly home to eat dinner with his kids.
Yeah, fuck.
And he would do it almost every night. Like, I mean, 365 days, he maybe missed 5.
Shit.
And when I heard this, I was like, no fucking way.
Dude,
That's amazing. That's dedication. And then, you know, like there's certain cultural things that are different for the individual.
Correct, yeah.
Where we would judge him for it, that he would have 2 wives. But the reality of it is that he still shows up and goes to dinner every night with his kids.
Where we have the difficulty, some of us, to at least show up for one, right?
1 wife.
Fuck.
And 1 kid.
It is an eye-opening story.
Like, yeah,
we tend to judge that, right?
Well, yeah.
Out of gate,
like,
oh
oh my God, 2 wives.
But then you're
how
like,
dare him?
okay.
But what do you mean he comes home? Like, yeah, if we don't go home and eat with dad, he's gonna be pissed because he just flew back 14 hours to make sure that we eat with him on his private jet.
And that reminds me of one of the other things I want to talk about is that, you know, you got to travel the world, man, you know, and your skills and talent are known internationally. MaxFit USA is a brand that is known and respected. And you had the opportunity to go in the Middle East and in Dubai and be involved in building some kind of culture down there around what you teach and what you believe in. Can you talk a little bit about that and that experience? What did that do for you? And what did that do kind of for your business and your brand and like the entire experience?
For me, it was like it was eye opening in the sense that, you know, we are always like, oh no, the Middle East, oh my God, what are you doing out there? It's dangerous. And you're like, well, no, it's not fucking dangerous. Not where I was, basically. So like that was cool. And then like you know, I even trained in China.
Yeah.
For some time, I did Olympic weightlifting out there, 20 days or something like that at a university, and the experience in Dubai, going out and actually being involved with. Actually, even in Europe, I've been in Europe with teaching them how to do CrossFit football and also to Olympic weightlifting. Just spreading the word of fitness in other places and seeing how the culture is receptive to it and how fitness is the language for, like, it just kind of like everybody can understand fitness. That was actually an eye-opening experience for me. And then Dubai being that it's, again, in the Middle East, being the Muslim culture, the actual like Ramadan coming on, you know, that first year I actually did one day of fasting, and I was like, this is fucking crazy. You know, how do you do this? And then this year, actually, I have to do 7 days.
Yeah.
And for me, it's actually mind blowing right now because nobody around me my family's not Muslim. Nobody actually understands that type of culture. But because I was with that culture, I like to like mess with myself, you know, like I didn't grow up having to fast like this. And as a child, if you did that mentally, that would be a very easy thing to develop.
Yeah.
As an adult, it's very hard.
Yes.
So I decided at like, what was it now? At like 30, 38, 37, that I would start developing a couple days every year to the point where after maybe 10 years, I could actually do 30 days, no problem. And so that's like kind of what I took away from it was that culture can teach you a lot as long as you're involved with it from the beginning, you know, or like you can understand someone by being part of what they're doing. But if you've never been there and you never had to fast or you don't understand it either. So that's why I was like, oh, I might as well go on this journey too.
You know, that brings something very, very personal as that 2014, I trained with you for 30 days and I fasted and I trained.
Yeah.
And that was the last year that I fasted. And CrossFit had CrossFit and losing weight had something to do with it. But I think, you know, growing up Muslim and coming from Iran, it's just like, you know, the religion is really mixed with culture. And so you have the liberty to do it or not. You know, it wasn't as strict as some other countries in the Middle East. So you always had the liberty to do it. And depending on what family you grew up. So I didn't grow up doing it, but I kind of kept with it. And I did it for a few years. And then, but after going through just weightlifting with you, and I remember I was fasting, I was like, break my fast with a banana, and then we would lift, and not having water and not having food all day, and then, you know, it was great for my body. But then after that year, starting to ask myself question, I truly didn't know why I was doing this. because the fast, as I studied and started understanding what this was created for back in the days, it was to, do like to clean your obviously your way you eat, and to feel how poor people feel when they don't have food or water, but also it was to clean your moral, and to clean your ways and the way you talk. But it didn't make sense if you would not eat food and drink, and then you would lie, or you would steal, or you would yell at your wife. It just didn't make any fucking sense. Or that you would wait right on the dot when it was 7:59, and then become a wild animal and eat like a motherfucker all night.
Yeah, that's actually things that I'm going through right now. Is like, oh, hey, I got to remember I can't cuss for at least the 5 to 7 days that I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I can't, because that's really all I do. That's really bad, right? I can't drink. I can't drink. I can't do things of that nature. I got to understand that. I got to be aware of. I got to be more cognitive of it. And that's
it's awareness.
That's all I'm doing really with it. And then just kind of bothering my normal livelihood, right?
Yeah.
Like, now, what are we training for? And I said I'm retired, and I haven't really challenged myself in a while. So this is another way to like mentally challenge myself, to be able to be like, okay, hey, nobody around me is doing this. This is something where I'm gonna have to explain to my wife, like, look, dude, I'm gonna try to eat 2 meals right before I go to bed. I'm gonna try to wake up and eat 2 meals, and then I'm rocking and rolling all day. I'm not gonna drink any water, so don't ask me if I want any. Things of that nature, like. And it's like, well, okay, this is weird, but okay, I've always supported you. And so, like, and that's it is what it is,
And it truly is an awareness. That's all it is. It's the mechanics to get you aware of this moral authority operating frame that you're going to adopt, or you wish to adopt, or you're discovering in the process of what this is. So anyway, I never fasted after that, and something happened for me too, is that I've left religion, and I've begun my journey of spirituality. Yeah. I'm grateful for my background. I don't consider myself an ex-Muslim. No,
how do you get exiled?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just discovering a more of a one-on-one relationship with God and spirituality versus putting anybody in between. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always tell people, like, I was raised Roman Catholic.
Yeah.
And then my mom kind of became more Christian. And then I remember one day my mom just kind of didn't want to go anymore. And that was a really weird situation. And then she just still reads the Bible every day. And she was one of the first people in my life that was like, well, it says say that I'm my own church, so I'm going to just kind of go in this direction. I'm kind of over this, like, this whole thing. And it really kind of sparked me to start realizing, like, oh, wow, there's this ability to actually teach yourself spirituality. And I think as, like, we start talking more about people aren't as manly as they used to be, or the confusion of what is a man's role, and it's a fucking huge confusion. The spirituality is a huge confusion too, because now you're talking about religious rights, and you're talking about religious wars, and you're talking about all this stuff, but the reality of it is that it's spirituality.
And you're talking about the fuck game, which is wrong and right, and it simply is just being okay with what is. And so the gift of all this today, sitting with you and sharing this, the gift of all this for me is that now I know what to teach my son, because I was confused in the past 4 years and a half, not knowing, where do I put him? What's the path for him? How do I introduce him to God? And I found out that I don't need anybody else to introduce him to God. Like, I'm the one that is supposed to guide him and talk about him. But more importantly, he's the one that has to start the journey of seeking. Yes. And I can't seek for him. I can't force it into him. I can begin the conversation and I can paint the picture, but ultimately he has to be in the fucking painting. Yeah. And I can't put him in there, bro. I can't.
I feel like too, like the more you actually kind of aware your children, right? Like, for example, I read them a child Buddha book. I read them a Quran child's book. I read them a Bible, and I also read the Bhagavad Gita's in a child book, so Hinduism. So I find all these books that are in kids format, and I still read them to them. And I do that because my mom didn't really do that to me. Not that she was trying to hide that from me.
Sure.
I don't think she was educated in that sense. Like, in her mind, didn't think it was valuable, and to me that's super valuable. That's like the idea of music. I was never really given a lot of music. My mom sang, did all this stuff, but I physically try to play music with Milo, and Milo now is starting to get better than I am, but it's because I never developed that as a child, so why not try to kind of influence that? So if I can influence those mentalities or that type of mental spark, and I'm I'm helping him actually more, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm giving him spiritual guidance, but letting him take his own path, if I'm giving him musical guidance, because I let my 3-year-old son say fuck in a song as long as it's in the radio.
Yes.
You know, he can't say it normal.
Sure.
But I let him say it if it's in the radio.
Yes.
And he gets excited about it because he knows it's coming. And he'll remember all the lyrics and songs and stuff. But he's really good at that. That's what he's enjoying doing. Like, you know, we also sing like Kelly Clarkson and shit. But he figures it out, and I'm going to encourage that. So he's really into music because I'm encouraging that. Same thing with like dance and gymnastics.
Yes.
Again, if I encourage it, it'll actually continue swimming. Like, think about how many people swim.
No.
Like, they don't.
No.
And you know, my mom let me go to the swimming pool in the summer, but was she dedicated to putting me in the pool a lot? Until he tells me, hey, Dad, I don't want to go back to the pool, then we will have that discussion then. But it's almost more important that if he likes water, why not like it until, you know, he might like it.
And most of them do as a kid. We restrict them. They love fucking water. We have a story around water. It was like, oh, okay. Yeah. You go run. You go play baseball now.
It's like heights. Like, don't climb that. Yeah, just fucking climb it. Don't hurt yourself.
Well, you have a second child coming up. A family's growing. Are you training still at Lucero this year?
Yeah.
Okay. So talked about let's plug Lucero a little. Lucero. Yeah. Let's plug Lucero a little bit.
Pardon me podcast.
Pardon me podcast. Lucero, great guy, great athlete. Needs to bring his ass to Warrior Week. We know that sometime soon, just for him.
Phenomenal man.
Phenomenal man.
He supports his wife a lot.
Fucking athlete. A lot of us have watched.
And when
him.
I mean supports his wife, I mean that he's physically. His wife is the athlete of the family, and he actually makes sure that he's like his year off was for surgery and also to support his wife traveling, right? And for the Olympics. Yeah.
Lucero.
That's pretty cool.
All right, so let's talk about.
I dig men like that, man. You know.
Let's talk about why you're training Lucero, and let's talk about him a little bit, and what's for Max? What's coming up for Max this upcoming year?
I train kids like that because you know he wants to get better. He doesn't want to just be a professional athlete or a CrossFit Games athlete. He actually wants to be a better individual. You know, he's a good man, good husband. He's married to his wife, a faithful man. He's into religion, in his own religion and spirituality. And to me, like kids like that, I like to encourage. You know, I don't think there's a lot of them out there. Sometimes I feel like people get misunderstood because of being cocky or being youthful and excitable, you know. And so he reminds me a lot of kind of what I wish I would have done and kind of how he just lives his life, man. He's a really good kid. I mean, I think about like even like Steven, another kid, I mentioned him already, that's working at the gym. He works at the jails and he works with juvenile hall kids and like and just getting people like them around me and my life, helping them out, knowing that they're helping out other people is just kind of what I like to do in the sense of spreading that kind of knowledge.
Beautiful. So, family's growing. What's coming up for Max this year?
I got another boy on the way. I tell my boys always earmuffs.
This is a man's show.
I wanted a girl, and I don't understand why men like puss out, and they're always like, I don't know, I don't want a girl because of all the other dicks and all this stuff, and it's like that doesn't make any sense because I would outsource that topic.
I will tell you why. I will tell you right now.
Just fucking talk to my wife,
dude. My daughter's 2-year-old, and it's a version of me, which means she has the fucking frame, and I have to fucking listen. When she came in, my mom said something. My mom looked at my wife and said, the one that is controlling him is finally here. I couldn't control him. You couldn't control him. Your son couldn't. The one that's going to control him. And my mom.
But she's always going to take care of you.
Well, that's the situation.
So that's the beauty of it. When you think when you're 70 years old and you're fucking old, you think your wife, she's not gonna care. She's old too. Your son's not gonna want to do shit for you, right?
He's gonna be gone, bro.
Yeah, fuck yeah. The only one that's gonna care is your daughter.
Yeah, it's true. Isn't that true? That's the frame.
Everybody's so concerned about that. And I'm like, wait a minute. You not see the end of the problem?
Dude, I experienced something weird. Like I come home and I establish certain discipline by
with the son and all that.
No, with her, man.
With her, it's like, oh.
And then she cries, but after I call her name and she's not calling me back. I'm like, what the fuck, bro? I'm being like rejected by my own 2-year-old daughter. It wasn't enough that I was rejected by all the girls at school and like I've like fucking dealt with rejection all my life with females. Now I have to fucking female it
But
up.
how cool too is it to see? How cool is it to see your daughter too, like seeing your wife a little bit, because you see your wife inside your son, right?
True.
And you see,
True.
and you see you inside your daughter.
True.
But that's like something that I'm gonna miss out on with my wife,
Yeah.
is because I had two sons. I don't think I'll have another kid. So that being said, I'm gonna miss out on like a female version of us, and that's something that I would love to see. Because
That is true.
again, my wife has a lot of spunk, and I really like admire my wife. My wife is my coach. My wife is my muse. My wife. I'll do it. I tell my wife. Even in our second pregnancy, her second pregnancy, I tell her all the time, like, look, man, we go to the hospital, we leave together.
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, if anything happens to you in the pregnancy, again, I know I have one son, but I don't fucking live my life without you.
Yeah.
So I'm leaving with you and my sons, or then we disperse. Everybody disperse, because I want my wife. So we're not making any stupid decisions. And I say that mostly because I want her to understand that priority number one is her.
Yes.
It's not saving a baby or anything like that. And I know that sounds horrible to say.
No.
But the priority is my
This is
fucking
the queen.
wife.
She's your fucking queen.
Yeah,
man.
she's going to come with me. And I think sometimes when we have kids, our focus becomes them. And I think in my vows, I specifically said that my focus would never become them.
Yeah.
That I would always be my wife, because my wife, she focused so much on me and so long that's where for me, it's important for me. And I wish I could always give my wife more.
Yes.
Like all of us.
All
right?
of us. All of us.
But, and then for me, like I'd say that this year I'm going to have the kid. I'm going to start moving forward in the sense of like maybe coaching more online again.
Yeah.
Kind of getting out. I have some people that want to get more like social media shit going.
Yeah.
More just me talking.
Yeah.
Kind of understanding physical fitness. And I'm like, I'm just lazy. I don't want to do it. But they're trying to. They again. Those villains are forcing me to work more.
You know what would be awesome? It would be to have a Max Fit USA podcast weekly, coming from coast to miss, 30 minutes, 40 minutes on the fucking mechanics of weightlifting and lessons of life. Because I've experienced the coaching with you like a year and a half. We worked out, but we talk so many fucking lessons of life that is taught on the fucking platform by the weight, the bar. And I have some of it on video. We used to record videos, and I listen to those. I'm like, fuck, man. The shit that we learn on the platform. Lessons from the platform would be a nice podcast with Max. I know I would subscribe to that.
I think it's like lessons from fitness in general, man. It's just so mean.
Platform. Lucero.
Yeah, no, the only problem with weightlifting is there's just no money in it.
Yeah, I know.
There's just no fucking money in it. I don't know. Yeah, and then like those that say that they're weightlifters, like it's a small group of people that actually want to get strong. I always say that people want to get strong until the weight gets heavy.
Yeah.
And then when the weight gets heavy, it's like, oh, fuck, I got other things to do.
Shiny object.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, God, my joints really hurt. I don't really care to lift that weight.
Well, dude, it's amazing. It was amazing to have you on the show. We want to have you back on the show. So we're May 9th. No, we're May 6th or 5th right now. Is it Cinco de Mayo?
Yeah, it is, buddy.
Oh, shit.
It is, yeah. I know.
We're going to break some shit down here, bro.
I know. When you said that, I was like, oh, man.
Bro, let's break down the fucking podcast. Cinco de Mayo. Maximilian is here.
Well, I thought you were going to be like, oh, here you go. Here's a Corona.
Fuck.
I mean, and you had it at a good time. 11 o'clock, we could have started drinking.
Dude, I'm committing publicly in front of Maximilian that I will be back here on fucking December 5th. 30, 40 pounds lighter, sitting here with you, and we're going to talk about.
Here we go.
It's a commitment, bros.
Here we go.
It's a fucking commitment.
Here we go. What's
at stake?
Yeah, what's at stake?
You tell me, bro.
I don't know. I feel like, don't you have a fucking
everything is recording right now?
Yeah, you have a list of people, right? They can actually type shit on there.
Yeah.
And then so Sam opened up his mouth. He said he was going to lose 30 to 40 pounds.
All right.
When was the date?
December 5th, bro.
December. Okay, I'll even give you to the fucking end of the year. He says he's going to lose 30 pounds December 3rd. You guys decide what his punishment is. Like, oh,
I like
for
that.
every 20 pounds he doesn't lose, you got to do 1,000 burpees. Or for every pound he doesn't lose, he does 100.
Don't give him that
10
option, bro.
10
There's
10
400 of
burpees
them
and
waiting just for this.
Yeah, just start fucking plugging away. I want to know.
Remember who took you to Warrior Week, bros.
It's time to pay back.
Oh, fuck.
I think they call that paying it forward. Paying it forward. Hey, so don't. And if this shit starts getting deleted, don't be shy to just email me, Max@MaxFitUSA. I'll keep a log.
Good. Well, the point is, we want to have you back on the show. We'll want to talk about progress from here until 6 months, right? So if I would have to ask you one question, and that would be sitting here 6 months from now, and if you take just a moment and you look at, who does Max need to become in the next 6 months?
He needs to stay focused, and he needs to become nothing more than what he is right now, in the sense that, and I know that sounds really weird to say, but he needs to just stay like in the moment, moment of like, hey, this is a good time in your life. You got your kids around you. Stay focused on what you're trying to do in the sense of losing your weight. It doesn't have to happen fast, because the reality of it is that I told myself that I would actually be under 200 pounds by the end of this year. So, and right now I'm 227. Since the start of the year, I was 240. I think I was 242 or something like that. And so I like to lose weight, keep it on, and I just want to stay consistent with that, even while having a kid and not being able to kind of get taken out of that, So if anything, in the next 6 months, not letting the new baby be the excuse of like, hey, losing the focus, but still being able to keep that inside the whole realm of life, right?
Yeah,
like,
you got a lot on your plate with the new baby, because you got
I
Milo.
I want that skin time.
You got Milo too, and then the excitement is also watching Milo having this new baby introduced into your family and how he will react. And so there's a lot coming up for you. I'm excited for that. I'm excited to have you back on the show. Yeah. And myself, same focus, man. Like, wait needs to
staying focused.
Doesn't have to happen fast, Sam. It just needs to fucking happen.
It just needs to happen. Staying focused and patience, man. I realized that was something that people were trying to tell me when I was younger. People were trying to tell me that I'd be a great weightlifter if I could be patient. And it never made sense to me, fucking snatching 330 pounds and then thinking about being patient over the bar. Like, I just want to lift the weight over my head. Like, that didn't make sense. And then even now, right now in my life, it needs to make sense. Like, I need to gain more focus and more patience.
Perfect. All right, bro. Well, thanks for being on the show. Gentlemen, if you want to check more of the details of the show, you can check it on warriorweeknow.com. There'll be picture, there'll be a transcript, there'll be a video, and there'll be much, much more details. And you can also obviously subscribe on iTunes. Thanks for being with us this week, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the future show.